Hello everyone, this is Tanya here from EDU TV and I welcome you all to today's interaction session, which is a school counselors meet on careers in the age of AI. We very well recognize the vital role all counselors play in guiding students in today's rapidly evolving AI-driven world. And it's my privilege to welcome our speaker for the day, Mr. Gladden, who is a lead instructor in Python and data structures and algorithms with a very strong background in both industry as well as in education. He's a former software engineer at Barclay, and he's worked on IVRs, chatbots, cloud based AI solutions, bringing valuable real world experience to his teaching. He's been associated with leading edtech platforms as well, such as the Newton School Physics Wala textbook, and has trained more than 10,000 students, contributing to about 2,000 successful tech placements as well. He is deeply passionate about simplifying complex concepts, equipping students with strong problem solving skills for the real world. We are very delighted to welcome him. Welcome, Gladden.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the introduction. It's a pleasure doing this.
Thank you. Thank you, Gladden. Gladden, over to you to please take the discussion further.
Sure. We'll get started. I'll quickly share my screen. Okay. Hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool. So just giving a little bit of context here before we start. So ma'am has already introduced me. I'll maybe take a minute more to speak about why am I the right person to take this session in the first place, right? So I'm Gladden. I started my career with software engineering, right? Working in the industry, solving real problems, building software solutions for big tech, right? And then I was mentoring and guiding a lot of students who dream to get into software and tech, right? And that is where I discovered my love for teaching and mentoring students. And then I pivoted to organizations who want to change this, who want to move education into the right direction. And hence today, I'm working as an instructor with UpGrad School of Technology. And today we are going to speak about and discuss about how AI is shaping the careers of tomorrow, how tomorrow looks like in the wave of AI, and what do we have to do to, let's say, stay relevant? What are the things that will matter, let's say, 4 or 5 years down the line, right? So let's start by addressing the elephant in the room, the question of whether AI will replace a lot of jobs. I think the most commonly used sentence right now in the industry is that AI is going to take away a lot of jobs, not just in tech, but in a lot of other domains as well. Is that true? We'll discuss, right? So, for sure, that the way we work is changing, right? And there are statistics to support this, right? So, statistics say that by 2030, there would be around 375 million workers, which is a large chunk of the global workforce. They'll have to switch occupations, move to some other role, or have to advance in their own job, right? To still stay relevant, because what they're doing right now, what is valuable to the industry or to the real world as of today, that same thing may not be relevant, let's say 4 years down the line, because that piece of work may get automated or maybe simplified, where a human may not be required to put in the same number of hours, right? So a huge wave of automation would come into the picture, right? And for those who don't understand automation here, I'll just simplify something, right? So if I can explain, let's take our own examples, right? So if you can state your job in 3 to 4 sentences. So for example, I am a content writer, okay? And my static job role is that, let's say, I need to read a lot of newspapers, go through articles, then scribble out some bullet points, what is the hot news in the market, and then come up with a unique article of its own, right? So I can almost put my work in terms of 3 to 4 sentences. If you can explain your work in steps or instructions, very high chance that it is going to be automated. If there is no dynamic nature to your work, it is very static, it is very repetitive, and it has instructions that you first need to do this, then this, then this. It can be automated, right? Because with code and with tech, I can give all those instructions to an agent, and the agent can reproduce the results of what the human was doing, right? The human was, let's say, researching a few articles. The same thing now, a bot, an AI agent or a bot is able to research, is able to summarize all of that content and produce like 2 pages of article on top of that, right? So that is very much possible. So automation will displace a lot of jobs. So I might need, let's say, 3 people to do the work that is currently being done by 10 people. Because let's say there were 3 people just doing research. Now that can be done by an agent, right? Scanning through the internet and finding what's trending, right? Now, as the nature of jobs is changing, okay, there are new roles that are emerging, right? So, for example, 5 years ago, no one was speaking about prompt engineering as a job or a role, right? That became hot and trending in the last couple of years because people realized that now, because information is no longer the moat, information is no longer the moat. If I need any piece of information, I can just ask any AI chatbot and they're going to give me the information, right? So then what is more important, not the solution or the answer, but the ability to ask the right questions, correct? Because all of the data is available, models are trained on top of that data, which means if I need answer to any question, I can get it. Then what becomes more important is who is asking the right questions. How do you ask those right questions, right? And then we started discussing about prompt engineering and how to maximize the context window, how to get out more and more relevant information from AI, right? So such new roles have emerged, right? Especially in tech. Me being from tech, there's a new role that has been deployed. It's called a FD, forward deployed engineer, right? And there are so many more roles emerging in the market that need to be combined with AI. That of course improve the productivity and efficiency of their current work, right? So the question here is the way we are working right now, and we all are working in different domains, but the way we are working right now, will people have the right set of skills for what is coming tomorrow, right? For tomorrow's jobs, correct? If yes, then what are going to be those skills? If no, what is going to become irrelevant, right? And as career counselors, for you, this is more important because you are the ones who are going to, let's say, counsel a lot of people, and they are going to make decisions based on your opinions or your suggestions, right? So you are exactly at the center of it. So the world is changing. There are more and more students, professionals who want to keep up with this change, who want to adapt to this change. They come to you for the right set of advice for their career, and you almost have that superpower of guiding them, right? So you're standing exactly at the epicenter of this change, correct? So we need to ensure that we are adapting and we are walking along this line of change that is going to happen with AI, right? And so your role is super important here, right? Now, one thing that has fundamentally changed, right? And in the last 2 years, I think I have taken at least 100, 200 interviews of candidates. And the way we have changed hiring is now we no longer focus so much on oh, he's an MBA graduate, or let's say he or she is a BTech graduate, or he or she is a BSc graduate. I think that still exists. I'm not taking it away completely. Your degree still exists, but let's say I want to fill an application. I'm looking for a software engineer. I have 10 applications. All of them have a BTech degree, right? so that the relevance of the degree is now very minimal. Okay, I just know that he studied XYZ concepts and he's done all of these courses. But what I'm concerned more about is what are the right skills that he brings to the table, he or she brings to the table. Because in real life, once he joins the corporate world, he or she joins the corporate world, and when real life problems are thrown at that person, is he or she able to apply those skills and solve those problems, right? or or is it that the professional has only learned it in theory? Correct. And so skills are becoming more and more important than degrees, and we have a lot of proof of work around this, right? You'll also see a lot of um, student dropouts who are building enterprises or startups, right? And there is no barrier to this, right? So earlier, there's one of my student whom I was mentoring like 2 years ago. um, he's in second year of his college. He has raised 5 crores of capital for his startup from ISB. He's still in second year of his college. He's building his startup, right? He's a founder, and he's hiring more people, right? So just imagine a student who is not even a graduate has the ability to run his own company, hire people, employ people, right? Because there are no barriers now. Where there are no barriers because technology has made it so easier for all of us to use it to solve complex problems, right? And so this shift that is happening from, let's say, I have a computer science BTech degree to I can develop front end or back end for large scale applications. Here is my portfolio. I have created an e-commerce platform for XYZ client, and that client was able to get 10 crores of sales in 6 months. That speaks a lot because now I have proof of work rather than just a degree, right? So that question is now shifting from what did you study to what problems can you solve, correct? So in any job role that you want to get into, let's say a student who wants to get into either a BTech, a BSc, I don't know, maybe physics, astrophysics, maybe marketing, sales, right? You enter any of these arenas, you have to solve some real world problem, right? Let's say you have a budget, you want to maximize the amount of leads. Okay, you have some tokens, some cost that your company has given you, and you can use those AI tools to build a software. Again, we talk about efficiency, writing lines of code. We can talk about hiring. How I was just reading an article about this yesterday of how many enterprises and many corporations are moving towards this model where at least the first round of hiring is completely taken by AI, right? And I just read the effect of this from a co-founder who's applied this into their hiring systems, and they are able to save like 60, 70, 80% of the time and effort that was going into hiring, correct? So any form of problem, whether it can be hiring, sales, marketing, tech, all of that can be solved by people who have this real world skills, correct? And we have some numbers to back this as well. So 70% plus employers are now prioritizing skills over degrees, right? In fact, I'll give you an example. So I was a lead instructor in an ed tech working before this, and I had to hire a mentor for students who are studying in BTech. Okay, there was one candidate who was a BCA graduate. Okay, so he himself did not have a BTech degree, but he was so good at problem solving, at competitive programming. He's won multiple contests, won hackathons, competitions. So good that with a BCA degree, he was able to mentor students who are currently in BTech or MTech because the skills are his leverage, right? Not his degree. And I hired him, right? And I had other candidates with a master's degree as well, but I still hired him. So organizations and employers are prioritizing skills over degrees, right? And hiring decisions are being taken accordingly. um, this is most relevant. What I see, this is most relevant in tech. In tech, this is even more and more important. Uh, my ability to write code, my ability to understand front end, my ability to understand UI, my ability to understand databases, security is very loosely dependent on the degree that I have, right? Uh, so I remember when I was in 7th standard, 8th standard, I made my first website, right? So in school, no one is talking about degree, right? I was able to do that. Why? Because of internet, access to information, YouTube, stuff like that, right? So now it is becoming easier and easier to access information, right? And so it is very important that we start working on building those real life skills rather than just getting a degree, right? So there used to be conversations happening that I am taking admission in this college for this degree because at the end of those 4 years I would be a BTech graduate, right? So people were in that dilemma कि matter नहीं करेगा कि whether I have become a good engineer or not, just that I have a good BTech degree. I have a BTech degree, and that is valuable, right? And might be possible that 20, 30 years down the line, even a BTech degree was very valuable, right? If you probably go one generation back, I think the hiring policies were very strict in terms of who can apply for this application, right? If you don't have an MTech, you cannot apply. If you don't have a BTech, let's say, you cannot apply, right? Now that is changing, and we're getting into a dynamic environment there. So very, very relevant across all domains, but most importantly in tech, very, very less dependent on your degree and more on your skills, correct? Now, as I'm speaking and as we're discussing and looking at what is happening in the real world, there's AI everywhere, right? Almost every day there's a new AI model that is being deployed. And I joke about this that every time Arvind puts a tweet or a LinkedIn post, Arvind from Perplexity, by the time I can go and install that application and get my hands on, I see Arvind posting one more tweet on something bigger and better that he has shipped, right? So there's this Perplexity computer coming out, there's this new AI model coming out, right? So the world is moving so fast, at least the AI ecosystem is moving and shipping so fast, uh, that as humans, sometimes you're not even able, even if you're at the forefront of it, you're not able to keep up with so much of things that are happening, right? But who is winning in this, right? uh, Everything is happening out of all this chaos, if we would like to put it that way. uh, who is winning? Someone who's making most out of it by taking the advantage of this change, right? So let's say a content writer could improve his efficiency 5 years ago because of internet access to a lot of these resources. Like, so let's say I want to write an article of marketing strategies that could be used, I don't know, for social media or something like that. Okay, I can read some articles, I can go through books, I can look at a lot of information, I can brainstorm, I can pick something out of it, and I can write my own article, right? Maybe that is how we used to work 5 years, 7 years ago. Now I don't have to go and manually look and try to find every piece of information, right? I can have an AI bot uh, where I've given enough context of what is my goal, what am I trying to achieve, okay, what is the exact piece of information that I'm looking for, what are the relevant sources that I am interested in. Please dig this information, bring it to me in the format or the template that I want to, right? And writing an article now becomes, let's say, what used to take like 4 hours, for example, is now taking, let's say, 30 minutes or less. Correct? But is there a human behind it? Yes, of course. So who's winning the game? Someone who's using AI to leverage their job, their responsibility, right? And so AI as a co-worker is what we like to address AI moving towards working with humans, or rather, I should say, humans working with AI and not AI replacing humans. Correct? So, what AI can automate, right? What are the things that AI can disrupt or take away, right? I mentioned this earlier as well. If something can be put as plain and simple instructions, XYZ thing, then do this, then do this, then do this, correct? Can be automated, right? If you can put your job in, let's say, 3 sentences, my job is I first step I do this, second step I do this, third step I do this. If you can explain your job in like 3 4 sentences, and those sentences are static, okay, there's no dependency on what response have I got from the other person. There are no constraints from the industry, business, and stuff like that. Then it becomes very easy to automate those tasks, right? So most jobs will have some form of automation, right? You can think of the most creative tasks, right? The most creative task in terms of, let's say, someone designing a poster for an event, right? I can take a lot of my ideas and inspirations, or the work I've done in the past. I can feed that to AI, and I can tell what my goal is, and I can uh, reproduce or create something new out of it based on my taste. Correct? So that is very possible. Reading information, right? I think we have come far enough that someone whose job is only to read information and bring out insights from that information, that has already been automated. Okay, I don't think we employ people to just, oh, these are 20 documents, read this and give me XYZ insights of, uh, what what is the revenue growth for XYZ years for this following companies, right? Let's say in finance, you have a lot of uh, data around money, revenue, sales, operating margin, stuff like that. And if I'm doing a case study or I'm doing a research, and I have these documents of some companies, you no longer need a human to do that, right? So reading information, extracting analytics out of it, generating insights out of it, I think can be very easily automated and is already being automated. Content generation. Okay, now this is funny because people, when GPT-2 had just come up, GPT-2 and GPT-3 had just come up, most people thought that we could use AI only for having textual conversations. Like for longest, even people in tech thought of it like, okay, because the basic model that goes behind AI is like, if I give you 3 words, predict the fourth word. So it is able to work really good with text, but can it actually be creative, right? And we were all surprised by the tools that came after it. And for the longest time, even I felt like uh, ChatGPT cannot create good diagrams. It could create images, but it could not understand diagrams. It could not label the diagrams properly, right? And with every new model that is coming, it is changing our perspective. And I think even for a lot of content that we create today, for example, the PPT that you're looking at right now is also generated with some help from AI, right? So even content generation can be automated using AI, right? Um, and and the catch behind this is there are very few jobs that can be fully automated. And what I mean by fully automated is you can just rely on AI for doing that job completely end to end. There are very few jobs. So what does that indicate? That indicates humans are still required. AI now becomes an assistant to humans. Correct? So you cannot eliminate humans out of the picture. So humans are still required. AI would act more like a enabler and assistant, right? Which saves a lot of my time, right? What AI cannot replace. So let's take an example. Okay, uh, you are a founder or a leader in a corporate world, and your take is that the current business model is not working. So you want to pivot from, let's say, an online channel of marketing to an offline channel of marketing. For example, you're the marketing head. Would you let AI make this decision? No, obviously no. Because as a founder, you understand your company well, you understand your budget well, you understand the constraints well. So you do not want to let AI make significant decisions for you. So decision making still is controlled by humans. Emotional intelligence, right? So when we are taking decisions in any form of business, right? So there's a very famous line that goes by, every business is a people's business, right? Which means no matter which industry you're working in, no matter which company you're working for, you are going to work with people. If you are going to work with people, there are emotions involved in every decision that you make, correct? And so I cannot make every decision just mathematically. I want the highest efficiency, just fire the half of my workforce tomorrow, right? Those decisions don't actually translate to real outcomes. So a lot of emotional intelligence, dealing with people, understanding people, doing what is right for your people, I think that requires a strong human touch. So I think still dependent on humans for that. And of course, creative and ethical judgment, right? So let's say AI creates something, you still have to review it as to whether this could create some form of, for example, AI creates a poster, you feel this will create some form of controversy towards some political arena, some religious aspect is being displayed in that poster, for example, and you may want to discard it, right? You cannot just think uh, with zero bias, correct? So I think judgment, keeping all of the things in mind with a lot of constraints that we work in, I think it still requires humans, right? So again, collaboration is becoming more important. Efficiency is becoming more important. Productivity is becoming more important. But I think when it comes to judgment and decision making, you still want a person to make that decision and not AI, right? So let's say we'll take a scenario where I have two people. One person, he's able to code, of course. The second person is also able to code, but he or she can use a lot of AI tools. So who gets hired? Of course, person B, right? Because I know both of them understand code. Both of them will be able to figure out when things go wrong. Both of them can propose solutions, but person B can do it faster with more efficiency, right? Because he or she can now use AI tools. So even if you have the relevant skills, right? Even if you have the relevant skills. So for example, for a software engineer, the relevant skill that we were talking is basically code. You're good at XYZ framework. So now you can code and create an application. Correct? Of course you can do that. But can you use AI for building this application? If yes, you are going to be 10x more important to me, uh, because everyone is going to use AI in their work, right? If you don't, you're going to get left behind. So from that hypothesis, no matter whom I'm hiring, right? It may be a person for operations. I would still want them to be really good at using AI tools so that they are able to come up with faster information, creating a lot of rubrics and stuff like that, right? So anyone using AI along with their primary skill set. See, why I'm saying here that plus AI is important and not just AI. And some people might debate here, saying that I know a person who's from, let's say, a marketing or a sales or a non-technical background can still use a lot of this vibe coding applications and ship a product, so they can still develop, right? So do you actually need to know coding? Can I still survive with just knowing the AI tools? That will not work. Why that will not work? When AI makes mistake, who's going to identify it? So again, we go back to judgment and decision making. You want humans to be able to make judgments. You want humans to still decide whether this decision is right or wrong. Correct? You have better and real world context of what you're trying to build. So plus AI is important, but your primary skill set still matters, right? So anything and everything that we are learning now, you have to learn it with AI. Correct. There's this very common cliche statement that has been going around, right? So AI is not replacing jobs. People using AI are replacing people who don't. Correct. Again, hypothesis of this is people who are using AI in their work are going to be more productive, more efficient, and so it is easier for them to climb the career path, their corporate world, whatever, right? Because they are more productive and more efficient. So they are more valuable in the real world, right? And a very simple way to explain this is like, think of if you are a Marvel fan, think of AI like the Iron Man suit, right? So Tony Stark is still required, right? Because who wears the suit? Tony Stark wears the suit. The suit makes him powerful, right? But the suit in itself, with all those superpowers, if there's no one using that, it becomes irrelevant, right? So I think that combination of knowing a skill and then knowing how to use AI to optimize that skill, I think that is what will be game changer in the time to come. What jobs are going to decline, right? So every time technology has shifted from something to something new, there have always been decline in some jobs, and then there are new jobs that pop out, right? So as I mentioned earlier, I think for the longest time there were jobs and there were massive amount of people required for, let's say, data entry, right? A lot of people, let's say 10 years ago, used to work on Excel. Almost every other person, if they're working in the corporate world, let's say in 2010 or 2015, one of the most common skill was knowing Excel. You used to fill a lot of sheets, get out data of those sheets and stuff like that, right? Right, formulas there and stuff like that. Most people used to do that, right? Now it is much more simplified with AI being able to do it. Correct. Um, I am not sure about the number, but I am very sure that India is one of the largest. India has one of the largest workforce, or had the largest workforce for customer support, telecallers, and support team. Right? There used to be this uh, businesses and companies built around this, where there are like 500 people sitting in an office calling people all day, trying to note down their problems, solve their problems, and stuff like that, right? Um, and in fact, this is something that um, we were automating or building when I was working at Barclays, right? So I'll give you a real world problem, right? So let's say if I have a small company, I have 10 customers, right? It's very easy for me to individually call them, take feedback, ask them about whether they love the product, what could be better in the product, stuff like that, address their issues, solve their issues. With 10 customers, it's very easy, right? Uh, when we're talking about scale, so for example, Barclays has like millions of users, right? I think they're doing $1 trillion plus of asset under management. So when you're working on that scale, where if you chose to manually make calls to every customer, uh, I think the numbers will not work out. You will just not be able to run the business because the cost of support team would be so high, right? So in fact, I was a part of the voice chat in AI team. So we used to optimize this two ways. So one is in voice, we used to build IVRs, right? So let's say my credit card is lost, for example. Okay, I want to block my card immediately. I make a phone call. We used to build IVR, so that's called as interactive voice response. So there is a bot talking to you. The bot does some authentication verification. It asks you for your details. You enter those details again on text. I put some number. There's a bot speaking to me. I verify that I am the actual user I'm trying to be. The user asks me, gives me some options, and I do whatever I want, right? You could also make transactions related to your card, payments, bank, right? Without human in the picture, right? And all this was deployed on cloud. So with voice, you can solve it. With chatbot, you can solve it. So almost every other application that is on your phone right now, whether it is Zomato, whether it is Swiggy or Rapid or Uber, all of them have this AI integrated support chats, right? Which is much needed, of course. It's not possible for a human to manually answer and solve all of those queries. So these roles are at risk, correct? Because they can be now automated, right? Again, bookkeeping, software testing manually, right? So if I have like 4 test cases, and every time I write some bunch of code and manually I'm going to test against those test cases, I think it can be very easily done with AI, right? So we have to be very well aware of what is changing, uh, what jobs are on the decline, and ensure that we are preparing towards the right side of this, and we adapt and learn, right? So what jobs are rising? Okay, obviously everyone is talking about the red side. There is a green side as well, right? So and this is funny, right? People say that software engineers are not needed, or AI will take away jobs of a lot of software engineers, because the best AI models that you have, they can write phenomenal code, right? They can write phenomenal code. And then you also get this news. For example, I was reading about Anthropic the other day. So Anthropic is hiring a lot of software engineers, probably paying them the highest that anyone has paid them, right? So an AI based company is hiring software engineers to write code again, or to handle tech for whatever reason, right? So then this does not go very well with our initial hypothesis, which was that AI will take away jobs. Uh, Correct? Which means that again we go back to our same answer, that AI independently is unable to do 95% of the tasks, right? So you need someone to um, control, manage, run these AI agents and use that in your job, right? In fact, I was reading day before yesterday, I was reading this interesting article by someone who just joined Anthropic as a software engineer, right? And it was his POV of how the company and how various other AI companies have very different kind of work culture, right? And he just put up his story. So his point of view was, he was very shocked with this, by the way. So he's like, when I entered the company, there are like bunch of software engineers. Let's say there are 20 software engineers working on a project, right? So the initial hypothesis is, let's say if I was doing 8 hours of code, because there is AI now, so that same work could be done in, let's say, 2 hours, right? So it saves a lot of time. His hypothesis was, people as software engineers and in tech in Anthropic are working in such a way where they don't consider themselves as people who are supposed to write code, but as managers of AI agents, right? And the way to work there, he said, was, so you spin up an AI agent for a task and keep it busy. Okay. Then you spin up another AI agent for another task. And let's say you have 5 AI agents. Your responsibility is to ensure that none of your AI agent is sitting idle. Correct? So just because your 8 hours of work could be done in 3 hours does not mean that you will save up 5 hours. It means that you could do more in those 5 hours, right? And he was shocked by this, that this is the default company culture, that every software engineer is expected to keep all his AI agents running all the time, right? If your AI agent is sitting idle, that means you are not productive enough. So you are not writing code, you're ensuring that AI is writing code for you when you're reviewing it, whatever, right? But you're getting more and more work done, right? And that was like mind blowing for me, because then just think of the efficiency, right? And then you also get to know how these companies are able to ship products so fast. Almost every week there is a new model coming up, right? And then you know how is it happening, because we have got so much efficient with technology and AI, right? So more and more need of um, the right side of the wave, right? So AI ML engineers, we need more data scientists, we need more prompt engineers, anyone who understands AI, anyone who's able to work with AI, people with understanding of how to work with data, how to train models, how to build this AI, stuff like that. Uh, Anything around data and decision making, right? Because I told you before as well, when it comes to decision making, strategy, ethical behavior, right? We don't give the responsibility completely to AI, correct? So then we need to ensure that we have professionals who are really, really good at looking at the output, let's say that AI is generating, and then taking the right decision, correct? And now, because things are moving so fast, right? There's a new wave that is coming, there's a new model that is coming, and people are adapting it so fast. So something, when it's happening too fast, there are some loopholes that always get left behind, correct? And so there is a chance of things going wrong, right? For example, I'm shipping too fast. My AI model forgot that there was some sensitive information which was not supposed to be shipped to production, right? Or I have some open source repository. There are some details which I didn't want to reveal, but the AI just didn't care. And some of your details just got public, uh, which is not acceptable to us, right? Um, you might have heard of so many cases of data leaks that are happening, right? So uh, it happens very frequently, right? That you put your phone number at one place and you suddenly feel like everyone has your phone number or your data. Now, no matter how it happens, that is a different question. But if we are more and more dependent on data, then the possibility of data breach is on the higher side. The possibility of scams happening, because again, there are people in tech who also want to take the darker side of this, who want to take advantage of tech for the wrong reasons, right? So security becomes more and more important. And anything that involves creativity, human centric, we talked about emotional intelligence, right? So UX designers, right? So I need to understand the psychology of my potential customer. I'm making a product, so when I'm deciding what design should go on that product, I need to understand which colors create those signals, positive signals for my customer, right? What are those words I have to use on my product, right? And for a lot of this human centric judgment, I think we require humans as well, right? Moving to the new career formula, right? So for the longest period of time, okay, so I'll take example of let's say my father here, right? So my father has been working in railways for the last 30 37 years, right? So there has been a generation who have learned, let's say, a skill, or got into a company or a workplace, and they stick to it. They learn whatever is required in that environment, and that itself is their whole career journey, right? I think we are moving very far from that scenario, right? So, and in tech, we see this happening more frequently, where people are switching jobs. In fact, people who are switching jobs remain relevant for longer period of time as well, correct? So the whole pipeline has changed now. So you need to learn new skills. Why? To get into the industry, we talked about how skills are more important than degrees. So let's start from there. Skills are more important than degree. So I acquire the skills, I get a job, I implement those skills, I apply it at my work. Now, because technology is moving so fast, after 2 to 3 years, now that skill has become redundant. So, in this 2 to 3 years, when I was applying that skill at work, was I upskilling myself with what was changing behind the scenes? Correct? If I was, then I can relearn, update, and adapt to the change. And so I go back to learning the next skill set. I apply it at work, but technology is changing every single day, right? So we have gone away from that phase where you learn once, and you implement it lifelong. I think that has disappeared now. So you learn, apply, you relearn, you apply, you, I mean, this whole cycle is going to continue. And people who keep on doing this, I think, will remain relevant for the longest period of time, right? And so I also give this advice to a lot of my students whom I mentor, right? That a lot of people in their career journey typically tend to learn and study when, let's say, they get laid off from a job, so they don't have a job, so they find it that this is the right time to learn new skills, and then they get the right set of jobs. The people that I know have made it big in their career are the ones who are doing this learning in their current job. So there's never a situation where you get laid off in the first place, right? Because you are almost ahead of everyone else, correct? So that learning is now default. Okay, so if you're not spending enough hours a week, a month to learn something beyond what your job demands, I think you will become irrelevant after some point of time, especially in tech, correct? A very, very important point, correct? Your portfolio, again, just like how we mentioned, your skills are more important than your degree, right? So eventually your degree, which college you went to, what was your score in the exams, all that would eventually translate on a piece of paper, which we call as your resume. But then what are your real world experiences? If you worked at XYZ company, what was your contribution there? Did you build anything? Did you solve a real problem? Do you know how to handle queries at scale, right? All of these things are more important for an employer. Let's say I'm hiring a person and I need a backend engineer. My answer is going to be very simple. I'm not going to ask you 5 theoretical questions on backend. I'm going to ask you to show a project where you have used your backend skills and build something out of it, right? Show me what you have built, correct? Show me what you can do rather than telling me, show me, correct? And so your portfolio or your work becomes more and more important, right? So most of hiring managers now prefer some form of project portfolios over just a resume. And that is why we even advise our students to have their GitHub profiles. They have their projects hosted live, have their case studies, louder more than any of these certificates or degrees or certifications, all of these things, right? Because your work speaks more than just a piece of paper, correct? Now, something very interesting, right? And this is also the reason why I have moved from, let's say, pure tech to now into the epicenter of, let's say, tech and education. And think how funny it is, right? Most people are complaining that they are not able to get jobs. This is the most common term we hear all around. There would be people around you as well. Their only problem statement is there are not enough jobs. I don't have a job. I'm unable to get a job. There's something wrong. I don't know what, but they're unable to get the job, right? If you speak to any talent acquisition person, or if you speak to, let's say, leaders of people talent who are responsible for hiring, most of them will tell you. In fact, when I left my last organization, when I was having this discussion with the director of people and talent acquisition, right? And I just asked this question to people, right? If there was something that I could pursue and build, like let's say tomorrow I have to pursue entrepreneurship, what is your biggest pain point that I can solve, right? And his response was, Gladden, if you can solve the problem of talent, we spend so much time, efforts in trying to, hire the right talent. Even after hiring, we are not satisfied, right? So we don't have enough people, enough talented people, right? And every talent acquisition executive will tell you this, that they are not able to find uh, a person who matches the skill set of that we mention in the job description. Right? So what is required for the job? Now, for these two problems to coexist, right? Imagine there are like a million people screaming they don't have jobs. There are these leaders of companies who are saying that there are not enough talented people whom we can employ. And these two problems coexist. People don't have jobs. Employers feel we are not able to find candidates. Correct? These two problems coexist because the skill gap, let's call it skill crisis. The skill crisis is so heavy. You don't have a job, 10 jobs are available. You do not match the criteria for any of these jobs because you don't have the relevant skill set. Correct? Maybe because your current education couldn't provide you with the necessary skills. Maybe the education that you have pursued so far could not imbibe those real world skills in you, right? And so for these two problems to coexist, I think a very difficult situation on both sides, right? But how do we solve this? The only way we can solve this is people who are unemployed, looking for a job, planning to upskill, right? Give them the right environment to nurture, learn, so that whenever there is an opening, whenever there is a responsibility where you need a person, and if let's say the match happens, right? There's a person looking for a job, and there is a recruiter who's trying to find a person. That professional should have the relevant skills and get the job, right? That match has to happen. How will that match happen? When we have the workforce who's ready to upskill, and the new workforce that we're going to produce, that is even more important. Let's say 15 lakh engineers are produced every year, for example. Why don't we go back and start solving the problem from root? So every engineer or a professional who's pursuing their education, right? So 4 years of BTech degree, I'm anyways going to dedicate my 4 years, okay, to college. How can I make most of it so that by the end of this 4 years, I'm ready for what is required in the industry? Correct. And I think that is also the one of the the primary problem that we are trying to solve with UpGrad School, and I'll come back to that, right? Um, we all agree that traditional education is struggling, correct? And we talk about this, that what we're teaching right now in schools and colleges is outdated. Something that was relevant 20 years ago, that is being taught to students right now, right? I feel even if you teach the students what is relevant right now, that too won't work out, because your student is going to graduate, 2026 student is going to graduate in 2030. So the skills that I'm teaching that student right now may still become irrelevant after 4 years, right? So we are preparing the student not for the past, not for the present, but for the future. And so very, very important for you, for us, all of us, to ensure that that learning happens in such a way that the student is able to learn of what is required in the future, and develop a model in their own head. No matter how technology shifts, no matter what is relevant, I'll still make myself relevant, and I'll adapt, basically, right? So adapting and surviving through this. Correct. In fact, all of you guys, all of the career counselors play a very, very important role, because you recommend students in choosing the right career paths, choosing the right colleges, right? So that, I think, that becomes more and more important, right? And out of everything that I've spoken so far, we've highlighted as to what is the problem, how AI is going to change jobs in the future, what is going to stay relevant, what are the skills that we need. Of course, a lot of tech, a lot of AI, a lot of other domains plus AI, correct? Who is going to solve it? Someone has to solve it, right? And there are institutions or organizations, few organizations, who are trying to solve this. And that is also our motivation and vision behind the UpGrad School of Technology, right? So we are trying to build something that is adapted to the model that we want to work on. And I think I'll take a pause here and hand it over to Sonalika, who is here and will tell us more about the role of UpGrad SOT, what is the vision, what is the program, and how that can solve all the problems that we discussed in today's session. So over to you, Sonalika. Please take it ahead. Yeah.
Thank you, Gladden. Hi, everyone. I am Sonalika. I am the community manager at UpGrad SOT. So, as Gladden very well explained, how there's a huge gap in the market, and I am going to tell you how UpGrad SOT is trying to resolve this problem and why we are so sure that we would be able to do it. So, I'll just take few minutes because the program that we have designed is co-designed by the leading universities and as well as with the industry people who are currently working in those companies and who knows what skills are required in this time and what skills could be relevant even after 6 years and how students could be prepared for this uncertain world and we at UpGrad SOT is really focused on practical learning. And we have our program designed with AI. So, as Gladden very well said, that the primary skills would be there, but with that, you have to adapt the new skills that are going to be relevant in the future. And that would be changing, but you have to be adaptable enough to grab those opportunities and to, learn very fast with this world. So, in upgrad we are also focusing on different students. So for example, if a student wants to be an entrepreneur, so we have our founders fund which would be able to fund these students, which would be able to provide guidance to these students so that they can have their own companies and probably provide employees, employable. So, and we also are focusing on the research department. So, if anyone is very interested or students are interested in the research, so they can actually do research for these 4 years and just build whatever they can. And we are also focused on the relevant skills, as I told you. So, with all these skills and everything, why we are so sure that we would be able to bridge this gap is because we at UpGrad
Has
has
a
a
very
very
well
well
designed
designed
ecosystem.
ecosystem.
So in
So
our
in our
ecosystem,
ecosystem,
we
we
have
have
Internshala,
Internshala,
we
we
have
have
Recruit,
Recruit, and we have other companies like Imparter, Centrum. So we are going to make sure that from the very beginning of your first year, the students will get internships in whatever companies or in whatever domain they want to. They'll get job assistance throughout their life, and they'll be, participating in all the different programs or competitions, hackathons, everything they can. So they would be confident enough to enter in this uncertain world and can achieve that. So this is our mission at UpGrad SOT, and we would love to get your support to fulfill this mission. And we just want to have a great next generation who can help us grow, and as a country we can grow also. So I would request everyone so to just support this mission, and I will be sharing a, the form, so you can fill that form, and we would be knowing that you are interested in supporting us. And of course, there would be some incentivization about which we can talk about later. And I hope everyone had a good time. And in the end, this is just a bonus thing. So, as a token of gratitude for all of you for giving this a chance to explain us what we are doing here and giving us our time, we are providing a Microsoft Gen AI course for all of you for free of cost. So, I'll be sharing that email with you shortly after this webinar, and you all can go through it. So, that's all from my side. Yes, so I'll be sharing that form link on the chat. Gladden, can you? And probably I'll just share you the email as well for the registration form. So you guys can fill that form and our team will connect with you as soon as possible.